Hungarian Folk Tales. The Poor Cobbler and the King of the Winds. There was once a poor cobbler who toiled all day and all night and had more children than there are holes in a sieve. One day he mended the shoes of a miller, who paid him with flour, and he was carrying the flour home when the wind blew all the flour away. Well, that's too much. I'll go and find the King of the Winds to let him know it was heartless to take that sack of flour away from me. He made his way through many lands until he arrived at a beautiful meadow. There he saw a whirlwind approaching that blew the dust from the road up into a spiralling cloud, and the poor cobbler was so very afraid that he took his hat off and lay flat on the ground to save himself from the raging wind. "You are wise to recognize and bow down before my power," said the King of the Winds, "or else you would have fared much worse. Tell me, what brings you to this distant place?" "I came for compensation from you, Your Majesty. The other day I was paid a sack of flour, and I was just carrying it home when a youthful breeze blew it clean out of my hands, and now my family have no food to eat." "Leave that to me. That wicked wind will suffer for its deeds, but I will not let you suffer any longer." So the king led the poor cobbler into his palace, where he fed him and gave him a magical lamb. Then he said, "When you arrive home, simply say, 'Shake yourself, O lamb,' and the lamb will shake off enough money to keep you for a month. But beware not to try this before you arrive home." The poor cobbler took leave from the King of the Winds and left for home. But his curiosity overcame him, and he simply had to see what the little lamb could do. As soon as he uttered the word of command, the ground around the lamb was showered with gold coins. He soon reached his lodgings for the night in the house of a very old friend, and he warned his friend never to say, "Shake yourself, O lamb." But the poor cobbler had hardly fallen asleep when his host and his wife ordered the beast, "Shake yourself, O lamb." When they saw the gold coins scatter on the ground, they took the animal and replaced it with a lamb from their own flock. The poor cobbler woke the next morning, but failed to notice the change. He thanked the man and his wife and left for home with high hopes in his heart. When he eventually arrived back, he said, "Shake yourself, O lamb." He repeated the order a number of times, but the little lamb simply stood and stared back at him. The cobbler then set off again to visit the King of the Winds, and he was very angry. He marched straight to the palace to voice his complaint. "I am sure you did not take my advice, and you must have spoken to the lamb before you reached home. But this time I will give you a tablecloth, and all you have to say is, 'Fill yourself with fine fare, O tablecloth,' and it will be covered in food. But do not be tempted to try this before you arrive home." But the poor cobbler was too curious again, and he tried the tablecloth. When evening came, he took lodging with his friend again, and he said to him, "You mustn't tell my tablecloth to fill itself with fine fare." The friend and his wife could hardly wait for the cobbler to sleep that night. They gave the order at once, and when they found out what a valuable tablecloth he had, they exchanged it for one of their own. The next day he arrived home and became terribly angry when he ordered the tablecloth again and again, but nothing happened. Again the poor cobbler travelled hastily back to see the King of the Winds, who was waiting for him when he arrived, and presented him with a small cane. He told him he should not tell the cane to "Turn around cleverly, O cane," before he arrived home again. The poor cobbler could barely wait to find out what the cane would do, and so he quickly said, "Turn around cleverly, O cane." The cane hopped up and began to beat him hard. The poor cobbler cried out in pain, "Stop!" and the clever cane stopped beating him at once. Now the poor cobbler knew what to do with the cane. On his way home, he stayed with his old friend again. He warned the man and his wife not to say, "Turn around cleverly, O Cain." But his wife's friend woke her husband at midnight. They took the cane into their room and she said, "Turn around cleverly, O Cain, once for me and once for my husband." The poor cobbler was quickly woken by their cries. "I told you not to address my cane, but it seems that you are the guilty one, so let it beat you as it will." "Oh, we promised to return both the lamb and the tablecloth." Then the poor cobbler ordered the cane to stop. But the friend and his wife did not wait for the cane to beat them again, and they hurried forth with the poor cobbler's lamb and his tablecloth, who took them home to his family, who never wanted for money or food again. And they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. One-eyed, two-eyed, three-eyed. Once upon a time there lived a woman who had 3 daughters. The eldest daughter had 3 eyes, the middle one had 1 eye, and the youngest had 2 eyes. One day the woman decided to marry off her daughters. A young man arrived seeking a bride, but he wanted to marry the youngest daughter with 2 eyes. But the woman wanted to marry off her eldest daughter first. The woman and the 2 elder girls became very angry with the youngest. They had a goat, and the youngest girl had to watch the goat in the fields every day. The youngest daughter was very sad because her sisters hated her and did not give her any food to eat. She was crying in the fields one day and the goat asked her, "Why are you so sad, my dear?" "I am sad and cry because my sisters hate me so much and they give me no food to eat." "Don't be sad, I shall help you. Whenever you feel hungry, just tell me, 'Little goat, come here and lay me a table, dear.'" The youngest daughter did as the goat said, and from then on she left for the fields every morning in the best of moods. The sisters soon began to wonder why the youngest one no longer asked for food. And they decided to spy on her. On the first day, the one-eyed daughter went with her 2-eyed sister to the fields to see what she did there all day. Both daughters sat down in the grass. "Lean your head in my lap," said the 2-eyed daughter to her 1-eyed sister. And as she lay down, her sister began to ask, "Are you awake or are you asleep, my sister?" And she kept on asking this until the one-eyed sister fell fast asleep. Then the two-eyed daughter said, "Little goat, come here and lay me a table, dear." By the time the one-eyed daughter woke again, the goat had cleared away all the food, including the table. When she returned home, the one-eyed daughter reported that she had seen nothing at all. The next day it was decided that the three-eyed daughter should accompany her two-eyed sister to the fields. So the two girls went out to the fields with the goat. The three-eyed girl leaned her head into her sister's lap and the two-eyed daughter began to recite, "Are you awake or are you asleep, my three-eyed sister?" Then the three-eyed daughter closed two of her eyes, but her sister did not see that her third eye stayed open, and she began to say, "Little goat, come here and lay a table for me, dear." The three-eyed daughter pretended to be fast asleep, and when she awoke, she did not tell her sister what she had learned while sleeping. At home, she told everything to her mother and sister. The youngest daughter became very sad when the three women decided to kill her pet goat. That night, she dreamt that an old man told her to ask for the hooves and horns of the goat and plant them behind the door without letting anyone see. So that is what she did. By morning, a fine apple tree had grown on that very spot. And no one could pick an apple from its branches except the two-eyed daughter. When the young man came, he asked the one-eyed daughter and the three-eyed daughter to pick him a golden apple from the tree, but neither could do it because the branches always pulled away from their grasp. They made the two-eyed sister hide under the bed, and she was not allowed to come out whenever the young man visited the house. But one day she rolled a golden apple out from under the bed, and the young man asked, "How did this apple roll here? Who rolled it here? I demand to see who did this thing." The two sisters said, "She is a dirty little nothing and you should not waste your eyes on her." Then the young man looked under the bed and saw the two-eyed daughter he loved so very much. He took her by the hand and led her away, saying that she must be his wife and no other. Off they went, and the two sisters stayed at home. If they had not stayed at home, my story would have lasted longer still. Folk Tales. The Giant Tree. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, there lived a king who had a beautiful daughter. The king had a wonderful garden full of flowers and with a giant tree in the middle. One day, the princess was strolling in the garden when a wind blew so strongly that it nearly blew the giant tree to the ground. But instead, it whisked the princess up and sat her right on top of the tree. The king let it be known that he would give his daughter and half of his kingdom to the brave man who brought his daughter back. Young men, brave and tall, came one after the other, but none of them could climb the tree. One broke his arm, one his leg, and the other his neck. The king had a young swineherd called John. The swineherd was in the forest one day with his pigs, when one of them came up to him and said, "John, you should rescue the princess." "What foolish talk, little pig." "It's not foolish at all. Just go to the king and tell him." So young John went to see the king that same evening. "What's the matter, my boy?" "Your Majesty, I will climb the giant tree and rescue your daughter if you will allow." "I will allow you, John, but if you fall, fall to your death, or else I will have you executed for insolence." "Your Royal Highness, please have a mighty buffalo killed and have 7 pairs of boots and 7 coats made from its thick hide, and I shall return when they are all worn through." John climbed up the tree with an axe, and he climbed as quickly as a cat. He climbed and climbed until he reached the longest branch, and then he crawled as he could no longer walk. When he reached the end of the branch, he jumped on one of the giant leaves, and it launched him up through the clouds like a sprightly frog. The world above was much the same as the one below. He was exploring this new place when he heard the princess asking him, "What are you doing here, John?" "I'm looking for you, princess." "Oh, John, you should know that my husband is a dragon with 3 fierce heads. When he finds out that you have come to take me home, he will kill you at once." Then she took young John into the palace. "John, I shall hide you here so that he will not find you when he comes home. Then I shall present you to him properly." The dragon soon returned home, and he opened the door with his mighty battle axe, and it flew open. "I smell a stranger here. Who was in my home?" "Don't be angry, husband dear. My swineherd climbed up from the earth below to serve me here." "Well, we shall see whether we can use you or not. Take a seat and eat with me." John ate and drank, and so did the dragon. After their meal, the dragon took John to the stables, where he showed him the horses and explained his chores. A young horse lay in the corner in a miserable state. It was thin and very weak, while all the other horses were incredibly fat. The dragon said to John, "Your job, John, is to feed my horses and keep the stables clean. But never feed the young horse anything it wants to eat. If it wants oats, give it hay, and if it wants hay, give it water." So the boy did as the dragon told him. One day the dragon went out to hunt when John was feeding the horses. He stopped for a moment and asked the thin horse, "You poor thing, why are you so thin? You can't even walk." "John, you have a good heart. If you listen to me, you will have good fortune. I know why you came. Tomorrow is Sunday, Go to the princess and tell her to find out from the dragon where he holds his strength, and then let me know." And that's what he did. The next day, the princess said to the dragon, "Darling dragon, don't go hunting today. I feel so lonely without you." And she began to caress the dragon. The dragon was happy as he thought the woman loved him, but she loved him as much as she loved horse manure. "Dear husband, do not deny an answer to a question of mine." "What do you want to ask, dear wife?" "I only want to know where you keep your strength." "Oh, dear wife, no one else should know about that except me. If you don't tell me, you don't really love me." "But I do love you, dear." "If you loved me, you would tell me." "Look, my darling, this is a great secret. No one must know about it." "People always say that once a woman and a man are married, they should have no secrets any longer." "Very well, I will tell you, but you must not tell another soul. There is a silver bear living in the forest. It goes to the stream every day at noon to take a drink. If someone cut its head in two, a rabbit would jump out. If someone shot the rabbit and cut its head in two, then a box would jump out of that. There are 9 wasps in the box. If someone destroyed that box and killed the wasps, then I would become weaker than a fly." The wife kissed him and brought him a jug of strong red wine. "Let's drink to your health." They filled their glasses, and the dragon drank his glass of wine in one mighty gulp. The princess pretended to drink her wine, but did not, and poured the wine on the floor. "Well," said the dragon, "let's now drink a glass of wine to your health." The dragon drank the wine, and the princess did not, but she poured it down her dress. Then the princess said, "Now let's drink to John's good health." When they drank the next glass of wine, the princess could see that the dragon was getting drunk. "Dear husband, let's drink another glass of wine to the long life we shall live together." So they did. Then the dragon fell down like a log. The princess called John in. "John, now I know where he keeps his strength." After she told him the story, he went out to the stable and told the story to the horse. "Go and build a fire from wood, and after the fire has died down, bring me the hot embers." And that's what John did. The horse ate the hot ashes and said to John, "And now let me out of the stable." And that's what John did. The horse ate the hot embers, and then it transformed into a stallion with a golden mane and 5 legs. "John, run down into the cellar. There you will find a golden saddle and a suit made of golden thread. Put the suit on, and then take the saddle and put it on my back. You will also find a sword hanging on a nail. You must take that too." John did as he was told. When they arrived, the silver bear was drinking at the stream. The silver bear saw them and tried to attack. The horse said, "Don't be afraid, John. Be brave." When the dragon's strength was finally crushed, the horse said, "Now let's go home. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore." So back they went and found the dragon lying weak on the floor. "Now both get on my back, because I will take you home." The king was old and frail when they arrived back. John approached him and said, "Your Majesty, I have brought your daughter home." "Here I am, father dear." The princess embraced the king, and they both shed tears of joy. Even brave young John was seen to cry. "John, you will be the king from now on. I give you my daughter, I give you my kingdom, I give you everything I possess." John married the pretty princess, and they both lived happily ever after.